Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Paisano's Music and Vinyl Talk. I am your host, as always, Paisano. Tonight, more Led Zeppelin. What can I tell you? It's a pretty random process when I decide which albums to review for you guys. And it's been a lot of Zeppelin lately, because I own a lot of Zeppelin. I own a lot of Hendrix, too. I own a lot of AC/DC. I own a lot of good deal of music. Tonight is a legitimate studio release. Their fifth studio album called Houses of the Holy, released in 1973. Now, this album showed a different side of Led Zeppelin. They were starting to stray a little bit from their bludgeoning blues rock of albums past. I mean, Led Zeppelin 4 showed them heading in a slightly different direction, and this just continued their voyage away from the blues rock of the late 60s and early 70s. Well, mainly 69 and 70. I should say 71. Were the main years that they came out bombing with their blues rock that positively revolutionized popular music as it was known to that point. But there was some very interesting compositions on here. Produced some true Zeppelin classics, along with a few, questionable tracks too. But songs from this album are heard on the classic rock stations every single day, coast to coast and worldwide. This album has, only recently been criticized for the naked children crawling across the stones there. Up to from 1973 up till now, you didn't hear much about it. Now all of a sudden everyone's freaking out about everything. So naturally they would freak out about this. But you know what I say. Fuck 'em. This album starts off with a Stone Cold Zeppelin classic. The song remains the same. And I don't know if Plant's vocals were turned up a step, because by this time he had already started to lose that real high pitch singing style that he had. I don't know if they just jacked it up on this one, but this became a show opener. Not around this time, it became a show opener later. The Song Remains the Same did in the late 70s, particularly around 77 and 79. You started to see this open the show. After that, let me see. Let's go over the track list in here. There's no writing at all on the actual album jacket. The inside sleeve. The Song Remains the Same. Followed by the Rain song, which is a very interesting song. Beautiful, beautiful guitar playing by Jimmy Page. And very nice song. Then after that, Over the Hills and Far Away. True Zeppelin classic. Heard every single day on the classic rock stations. And side one finishes up with The Crunge. Now, The Crunge is a very interesting song. It was, from what I read here, it was kind of like considered a joke a little bit. Trying to do some kind of James Brown type funk, but it comes across as pretty bad. And they kind of work this, bits and pieces of this into Dazed and Confused when they would stretch out on it in concert. You'd hear little bits of The Crunge. But it was actually the B-side of Diamaker, the 45, which I own. We'll get to Diamaker in a second. Side 2 opens with Dancin' Days. Great old Zeppelin song. Diamaker up next. Their attempt at... Were they really attempting reggae, or was this kind of another joke? I don't know. But you hear that one on the radio every day too. Became a hit of sorts. After that, you got No Quarter. Now, No Quarter is a fantastic song. And I tell you where No Quarter really started to shine was when they performed it live. I would take a live No Quarter over the studio No Quarter any day of the week. It added such ambience and such... created such a mood in concert. Such a somber song, and a song of like dread, you know, but the best kind of dread, if that makes any sense. But Jimmy Page used to really stretch out on this one live, as did John Paul Jones. He'd have a big piano sequence in it. He was one hell of a musician, John Paul Jones. Probably the finest all-around musician in any rock band you could find. He could play anything. And we finish up with The Ocean, a good, honest-to-goodness Zeppelin hard rock song. You know, The Ocean. I always liked The Ocean. Got a very good riff. A great way to finish the album. Houses of the Holy, the song, doesn't appear until 1975 on the Physical Graffiti album. I guess it was recorded around this time, but for one reason or another, they decided to leave it off of this album. But this was produced by Jimmy Page, engineered by the great Eddie Kramer, who seemed to have his hand in all the great albums from the old days. Hendrix, Zeppelin. Eddie Kramer was there for it all, and I believe he's still around. I believe he's still alive. Considered one of the all-time greats. Producer, engineer, sound man. He knew how to do it. And if you ever hear an interview with Eddie Kramer, you're bound to learn something, because he's seen it all and done it all when it comes to recording some of these groups. I don't know if he still does any albums, but if he does, I'm sure they sound good. What else can I say about this one? I bought it in the mid-'80s. Played very well. I probably bought it at Quincy Records in Quincy, Massachusetts. Yeah, I listened to it this week for the first time from start to finish in many, many moons, and it's an enjoyable listen. Always nice to hear some good old Zeppelin tunes, you know? I'm trying to think what else. They were starting to... they benefited from two members having home studios with this one. They didn't have to get creative with their recording as much. Like I said, they tried a couple of different things on this one with the reggae and the funk. Neither one of them worked out very well, in my opinion, but there's plenty of classic material here. And it's a great album in the Zeppelin catalog, no doubt. Alright, I think that's all I got to say about this one. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you're enjoying our discussions here, please like, and more importantly, subscribe. Smash it. Smash that subscribe button. Give Paisano the love. What will Paisano dig out next week? Tune in. Find out. Good night, YouTube.